Hi everybody, my name is Matt, and today we're going to learn all about the violin. Let's get started. So first, we're going to go over the different parts of the violin. So starting with the big part, the biggest, most notable part of the violin is called the body. The body is this red or brown or whatever color the big part of your violin is, all this wood part. This is called the body of the violin. Next, we're going to move on to the fingerboard of the violin. The fingerboard of the violin is this black part right here that our strings sit right above, and that we're also going to have these cool finger tapes on. We're going to talk about those a little bit later though. Next, we have our strings. Do you know what the name of our strings are? So first we have G, and then we have D, and then we have A, and then we have E. A good way to remember the name of our strings are good dinosaurs always eat. Right? So we have good dinosaurs always eat. Can you say that back to me? Good. Good dinosaurs always eat. Next, we're going to move on to the wooden part that holds up our strings right here. That is called the bridge of the violin. The bridge holds up our strings and helps our violin make these beautiful noises. Next, we're going to move on to this black piece right here, this long skinny piece. This is called the tailpiece of the violin. And on top of the tailpiece, we have mounted fine tuners. This is going to help us tune our violin, but we're going to leave that mostly to our teacher for right now. Then we'll move on to these cuts in the body. See these two little squirrely cuts right here? We're going to call those F-holes. Those are going to be really important a little bit later. Then we have the chin rest, which is this black piece right here. Lastly, we have the pegs of the violin. It is these four black parts right here. They also do the tuning, like these fine tuners do, but they just do a little bit more dramatic tuning. But we're going to leave that to our teacher for right now. Lastly, the most important part of our violin, besides the violin itself, is our shoulder rest. Our shoulder rest is super important and we always want to play with it. So how we're going to put our shoulder rest on our violin, yours might look a little bit different than mine, but we're going to put the part that goes, the smallest, like narrowest part on the side where our chin rest is. And then we're going to put the biggest, like tallest part on the other side. So mine kind of just slides on like that. But if we look, this part is really close to the violin and this part is a little bit farther up. Now that we know all the parts of our violin, let's figure out how to hold it. So when we're not playing our violin, we're going to be in what's called rest position. In rest position, we hold the violin with our left hand by the body, and we're going to rest it on our left knee. In our right hand, we're going to hold our bow from the bottom and also rest it on our right knee. So just like this. Can you do this even if you don't have your violin? Sit nice, straight, up tall with your pretend violin and then your bow. Awesome! Now we're going to talk about how to hold the violin when we want to play the violin. For right now, I'm going to put my bow down. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So when we play our violin, we want to put it up on our shoulder nice and high, and we want to point it to the left side of our body. Right? So we're going to kind of point out like this, almost totally to the side, but just a little bit forward. And then we also, when we're holding it with our left hand, we want our left arm to have a nice good space between our body and our elbow. We don't want this, we want more like this. Good. Next, let's talk about our fingers. So remember those fancy cool finger tapes that I mentioned a little bit earlier? So those are going to tell us where we put our fingers on our violin on our left hand. So we're just going to kind of line up our four fingers. So our first finger is going to go on the first finger tape. Our second finger will go on the second finger tape. Our third finger will go on the third finger tape. And our fourth finger will go on the fourth finger tape. And it's going to kind of look like this. Awesome, and now let's put the violin back up on our shoulder and remember how this feels. And make sure to keep a nice good space between our elbow and our ribs. And we also want to keep our wrist nice and straight here. We don't want to see anything like this. This will be bad technique and we don't want bad technique. So next we're going to learn how to pluck or pizzicato. So pizzicato means to pluck in Italian, and that's also how it's going to be notated in our music when we want to pluck or pizzicato. So it sometimes will be noted P-I-Z-Z. To pizzicato, we're going to put our violin up on our shoulder. You can do this with me if you have your violin with you. And we're going to put our thumb on the side of this black piece. Do you remember what this black piece is called? Yeah, the fingerboard. Awesome. So we're going to put our thumb on the side of the fingerboard, maybe about an inch up from the start. So maybe about right here. And we're going to just pluck using the tip of our finger. We don't want to use the nail of our finger, and we don't want to use the very back of our finger near our knuckle. We kind of want to use this nice fatty part of our finger. Can you try that with me? Yeah, exactly. Let's try it on the G string. Good, good. Congratulations. Now we know all the parts of our violin and how to pizzicato. Now, let's learn a song. So the first song we're going to learn is called Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. You've probably heard of it before, and the first line sounds like this. Have you heard it before? Probably. So we're going to break it down measure by measure. So I know you've all read the treble clef staff before. Can you tell me what our first note is? Exactly, it's an A. Now can you tell me what our second note is? If you get stuck, remember how to remember the lines and spaces of the staff? From bottom up, using the spaces, it is F-A-C-E. Exactly, so it's E, right? So if you remember from our string names that we learned at the beginning of this video, we learned that good dinosaurs always eat. And always eat stood for the A string and the E string. And those were our second thinnest and our thinnest strings. So I'm going to pizzicato the first measure, and it's just 2 open A strings and 2 open E strings. It's going to sound like this. Can we have you do it? 1, 2, ready, play. Awesome, now let's do it together. 1, 2, ready, play. Perfect, look at you, you're playing the violin already. Now let's move on to that second measure. Do you know how to figure out what the lines are in the treble clef staff? Remember Ernie gave Bert dead fish going from bottom to top? So that top note is going to be an F sharp, and that'll be our first finger on the first finger tape on our E string. So we're going to put our first finger on that first finger tape on the thinnest string. It's going to sound like this. Can you play that? Play with me? Awesome, exactly. So we're going to play 2 of those, and then we're going to play our open E string again. And these are all going to be quarter note, 2 quarter notes, and then 1 half note. Awesome, and let's play it together. 1, 2, ready, play. Awesome job. Make sure that we're playing with that good technique. We're sitting up nice and tall. We have our arm nice and out. We have this wrist straight, and it's not like this. We're kind of down like this. Make sure that we're sitting up nice and straight. We're not slumped over kind of like this. We're kind of up like this. Also, make sure that we have that shoulder pad on. We're halfway there through this first line. Next, can you tell me what those first 2 notes are in measure 3? Exactly, it's a D. So that'll be our third finger on our third finger tape on our A string. So it will sound like this. Then that next note is going to be a C sharp, and that's going to be our second finger tape on our A string. So our second and third fingers, make sure that those 2 are going to be touching on our A string. So that third measure will sound like this. And together, 1, 2, ready, play. Perfect! Awesome job! Now we're on to the last measure. It's going to be a B to an open A string. So we're going to use that first finger tape on our A string to an open A string. So that's our second thinnest string. It is the third one up if we're counting from the thickest string on the left. So that last measure in that first line is going to sound like this. And together that last measure one more time. 1, 2, ready, play. Perfect! Are you ready to put it all together? Awesome, now we're going to play the song together. Ready? From the beginning. 1, 2, ready, play. Perfect! Awesome job learning your violin today. Make sure you tune in next time for our next video where we learn the next half of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. We might even learn how to bow. See you then!